You know the feeling, right? You've got a short-term project, a weekend workshop, a pop-up event. These temporary get-togethers are amazing in theory, but the online groups we create for them, they almost always turn into a complete disaster. So we're going to spend the next few minutes breaking down why that happens, and more importantly, how you can fix it for good.
I mean, seriously, think about it. You spin up a group chat for a weekend conference or maybe a 1-month course. You're pumped, you have a vision, and then within just a few hours, it feels like you're trying to herd cats in the middle of a hurricane.
And you know that feeling. The link to the main event is buried under like 100 memes and hello messages. The important documents, they've just vanished. And instead of everyone connecting, the constant notifications are just stressing people out. Everyone's talking, sure, but nobody's actually connecting.
Okay, so this isn't just you being disorganized. This is a real documented thing. Let's call it the pop-up community problem. And it really just boils down to a few core, super frustrating issues. See, these aren't just little pet peeves. They're the real reasons these temporary groups fall apart. You get information overload, so nobody sees the important stuff. No one knows who's supposed to do what, so things get missed. But the biggest killer? You've got such a short amount of time, it's almost impossible to build the trust you need for people to actually work together. And this image just says it all, doesn't it? That is the face you make when you're scrolling like a maniac 5 minutes after a webinar was supposed to start, just praying you can find that one little link. It's funny because it is so true. So why does this keep happening? Well, it's not an accident. A lot of the time, it's a direct result of the platforms we choose to use. The problem really starts with those free tools, which, it turns out, have some pretty serious hidden costs. Now, this right here is probably the single most important concept to get your head around. When you start a group on a big social media site, you're basically renting digital land. You're just a tenant. But when you use a platform dedicated to community, you own that land. You build the house, you make the rules, you design the entire experience yourself. And renting, as you can imagine, has some major downsides. You have zero real control. Your super important event updates are fighting for attention with cat videos and your uncle's political rants. Some mysterious algorithm gets to decide who even sees your posts. And maybe the most important part, you don't own your community's data, and trying to make money from your work is either impossible or heavily restricted. Let's put a hard number on that algorithm problem, because this is wild. The average organic reach for a Facebook page is a measly 5.2%. Think about that. That means if you have 100 people in your group, almost 95 of them might never even see your post. You're basically shouting into a void that's designed to ignore you unless you pay up. What this really means is you're building something valuable on land that someone else owns. And if they decide one day to just bulldoze it or change the locks or jack up the rent, you're out of luck. It is a massive risk for anyone trying to build something real. All right, enough of the problem. Let's talk about the solution. What actually happens when you stop being a renter and you become an owner? Well, the whole power dynamic flips on its head. Okay, let's just start with the number that should make everybody sit up and pay attention. Companies that build their own owned community see their revenue go up, on average, by 2.8 times. Why? Because you're building direct relationships, you can offer premium content, memberships, courses. It completely changes your business model. And the benefits go way beyond just money. Remember all that chaos and the lost links? When you own the space, you have full control. You can design it to be exactly what your members need. Instead of fighting an algorithm, you're creating a focused, distraction-free zone. And building that trust in a short time, it gets a whole lot easier when the space is actually designed for real connection. So the next logical question is, how do you actually do this? How do you go from being a digital tenant to a digital landlord? Let's walk through the actual steps. I mean, just look at this side by side. The difference is night and day. On one side, everything that matters, who sees your stuff, what it looks like, how you make money, it's all out of your hands. On the other side, you're in the driver's seat. It's the difference between being a user and being an owner. When you're ready to build, here's a really simple way to think about it. First, what's your goal? What is this space actually for? A weekend event needs different things than a permanent community. Second, what are your must-have features? Third, be real about your budget. And finally, number 4, demand control over your brand. Your space should feel like your space, not some generic template.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. this all sounds great, but isn't building my own platform like super expensive and complicated? And you know what? A few years ago, you would have been totally right. But things are changing, and the future is getting here a lot faster than you'd think.
This whole shift towards owning your own space, it's part of a much bigger movement online. The idea is to build an internet where we control our communities and our data, not a handful of giant tech companies. It's a move toward a safer, more private web for all of us.
And because of this movement, the tools to build your own space are getting so much easier to use. I mean, what used to take a whole team of developers and a huge budget can now be done in minutes and for way less money. This speed makes it a no-brainer even for those temporary pop-up events we talked about. You can literally spin up a custom branded social network for a weekend conference just as easily as you could for a year-long program.
At the end of the day, this isn't really a technical choice. It's a strategic one. Are you going to keep pouring your time and energy into a rental that can be pulled out from under you at any time? Or are you going to start building a real valuable asset for your brand?
So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. If you were totally free from all those constraints of rented land, no algorithms, no distractions, no one telling you what to do, what would the perfect home for your community actually look like? What could you build then?